Hello, guys. Typically on this podcast, as you guys know, it's typically a spiritual podcast. It's a podcast that sometimes dives into the paranormal, dabbles with things like that. But oftentimes I will bring on guests that talk about health, and I think it's important for you listeners out there to kind of hoping that maybe you can get some good advice, or there's something that's mentioned in this conversation today that kind of puts you on a path of something you need that maybe can help inspire you to become a healthier person. So I encourage every listener out there to just please give this episode a chance. I think it's going to be an excellent discussion. So on this episode, we're featuring a CEO of Fitness Solutions Plus, one of Toronto's premier personal training companies. He is also an author of Stop Exercising the Way You're Doing It Now, 7 Dangerous Facts That Will Cause You to Stay Fat or Hurt Yourself. He's also author of Type 2 Diabetes Reversal Secrets, 4 Simple Steps to Lower Blood Sugar in 1 month Without Medications, which I absolutely love that. Yes, I want to talk about that. That is awesome. He's also author of Unlimited Progress, How You Can Unlock Your Body's Potential. And we're also going to talk about his new book. I'd like to welcome Igor Klibanov to the show. How you doing, Igor?
Very well, thanks. And thank you so much for having me on, Dylan.
Yeah, excellent. I hope I got your last name pronunciation right.
Very good.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to have you on. I've watched some of your videos, kind of looked into some of your work. Can you maybe for the audience just kind of talk about, what is your background and kind of how did you get into personal fitness?
Sure. My background with personal training, kinesiology. I have my bachelor's degree in kinesiology and health science. How I get into it straight out of high school. My first year out of high school, while I was pursuing my undergrad degree in kinesiology, I also worked as a personal trainer. Funny enough, in my last year of kinesiology, I applied to be to go to physiotherapy school, and didn't get in. But I really liked personal training, so I kept going with it. I applied again the year after. Same thing, didn't get in, but again, I really like personal training, so I kept going with that. I found it fulfilling, intellectually stimulating, rewarding, and so on. So I just kept on going with it. And I'm a naturally very, very curious person. So I wanted to figure out not just how to get good results with my clients, but how to get the best results with my clients. You can spend an hour and do a good thing, or you can spend an hour and do the best thing. You might as well be efficient with your time because you only have so much time. So you might as well figure out what is the most effective thing you could be doing at that period of time. So that's kind of what got me to work with so many clients and publish 8 books so far.
That's pretty awesome. Now, let me ask you a question. You said that, the best, you want to be most efficient with people's time. Now, is everybody a little bit different? Is it something that you need to try to figure out per case, or is it just kind of you've got a pretty good system in place and you kind of do the same thing with everyone?
I definitely don't do the same thing with everyone. I have an overall framework of where I start. And the framework will be different depending on the goals, whether it's fat loss or blood pressure reduction or blood sugar reduction and so on. But there's a general framework, but then I always start with an assessment to help me figure out where can we spend the majority of our time that will get them the fastest way to get to reach their goals. So yes, there's a framework, but I asked a lot of questions of my clients. I have a very thorough questionnaire that I answer in my assessment, and the results of that will kind of direct where I'll take my clients.
That's excellent. So why the drive to help others become healthier? What is it about that's in you? Or, I mean, is there something that's kind of pushed you, or is it just what drives you to do what you do?
I mean, I love progress. I find it very, very rewarding. And in this case, the reason that I chose to work with a demographic that I have worked with, which is what I call the big 4+1, namely high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, and the +1 being menopause. The reason I went for that demographic is I find it personally meaningful. In other words, when I was first starting out, I was working with athletes. bodybuilders, etc. And it was nice, shaving 100 milliseconds off their 100-meter time. But nothing really happened. I mean, they didn't get a scholarship, they didn't get a pro contract, they just got better at their sport, whether it's soccer or basketball or whatever. Or I added, a couple inches to their vertical jump. And that was cool. They played better basketball. They didn't get a scholarship out of it, they didn't get a pro contract, they just played better basketball. But once they actually start working with diabetics and people with high blood pressure, I literally lengthened their life. um, you take somebody from with the high blood sugar and you normalize that blood sugar, you're adding between 1 and 3 years to their life. You're taking somebody who has osteoporosis and you're improving their bone density and bone strength. Before they might have had the thought of the constant thought of a fracture. You're one fracture away from ending up in a home with other people taking care of you. If their bone density goes up, those concerns start to go away. Or with osteoarthritis. A lot of people who get osteoarthritis are former athletes. They love to move, but their joints are stopping them from moving. They stop from moving, they start to get diabetes, heart disease, etc. You decrease joint pain, you let them move better. They want to pursue other things like martial arts, like hiking, like Tai Chi and stuff like that. And so I just find it more personally meaningful to work with that kind of demographic.
Yeah, that really means a lot. Yeah, I think to me, I obviously means a lot to you. That's more impactful. I think, you're actually really improving people's quality of life versus just, improving their sport slightly, or, I think it is much more impactful to people's lives. And that's a good
Yeah,
thing, man. That's a good thing.
yeah,
We need people like you for
yeah. Thank
sure.
you. And not just their quality of life, but literally their quantity of life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I was watching some of your YouTube videos and you were like giving some quick tips on how to do like certain exercises. And believe it or not, at one time I actually used to be a bodybuilder. I did that for about 3 years, long time ago, but but I liked how you had a video of like doing good mornings, and I really got a kick out of it. And I thought, you explained it well. Um, can you maybe talk about the process and some of maybe the things that you have in your videos and like what you share to kind of help people with working out?
Sure. In terms of the process, I try to figure out who is my potential viewer. I mean, are they an advanced exerciser? Are they a complete beginner? And then I try to explain it from that perspective. If somebody is a complete beginner, I'm not going to give very advanced tips or use fancy terminology. Now, if I think my viewer is going to be somebody who's an advanced exerciser, I will use more technical terms without having to explain them because I assume that knowledge comes pre-existing. So that's kind of where I go with my videos.
That's excellent. Um, what is your purpose for writing books? I mean,
Um,
obviously, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, to essentially to get the word out. I mean, I'm in Toronto. I only train clients in Toronto. My team trains clients everywhere in the US and in the UK, Canada as well. But I personally, I like in-person training. The whole reason I got into personal training is so that I wouldn't have to spend all my time in front of a computer. Because when I was in high school, my parents wanted me to be a computer programmer, which is not a great fit for my personality. Um, but basically, I want the word to get out because there's a lot of bad information and misinformation on these 4 conditions. That's why in almost all of my books, the first chapter is just myth busting. I'll go over a myth. For example, I'll give you one from my osteoporosis book because that's A, recent and B, relevant. One of the myths is that calcium is good for your bones. Now, this is a huge eye opener for a lot of people. They're like, isn't calcium good for your bones? Don't they say drink milk for strong bones and teeth? Calcium is found in bones, but interestingly enough, calcium does not improve bone strength. It improves bone density without decreasing fracture risk. So there's tons of bad information, books repeating the same message over and over and over again, but it's the wrong message. It's not an evidence-based message. However, when there is enough evidence to say, oh, we used to believe that, but now that we've actually tested the idea dozens of times, we know that's not correct. It's not just one study that shows that, it's dozens of studies with really, really high populations. So I want this information to get out there because you push the right buttons, you get the right results. You push the wrong buttons, you get the wrong results. I had one client who came to me and they said, I wanted to improve my bone density, and I was working with a naturopathic doctor who told me to eat a plant-based diet. And I asked them, what's your menu for the day? And they told me their menu. And I said, well, that's the perfect diet for lower bone density. Um, it's almost like they hate you and they wanted you to fracture yourself. Essentially, what they told me was eat a low protein, eat a low protein diet. The single most important nutrient for bone density is protein. Um, and so this information is out there, not just by the lay public, but professionals. Like a naturopathic doctor was recommending this. That's not to say all naturopathic doctors are like this. This might have been just one exception. Um, but information like this is out there, and it's important to bust it. So that's why I spent the first chapter of every one of my books on myth busting, and then I get to do the stuff with here's what you shouldn't do, but here's what you should do.
I love that because I think, you hit something important. There is a lot of misinformation out there, medical wise and, exercise and health wise. And I like how you kind of touch on it. And even like you had mentioned, like it's just sometimes even just the way that something's worded it can be kind of confusing or, give the wrong message. So I like, kind of the path you're on with that. In your books, like your one title suggests that, people might be exercising wrong or doing things incorrectly. Is that something that's pretty common with people? Do you see that often? And can you maybe talk about some of the risks and, things that can happen with that?
Oh, absolutely. It's extremely common and gotten way more common with social media. Before, if you had a message to give before social media, you had to go on TV, radio, newspapers, magazines. That was earned media. You had to earn your spot on there. Social media, Instagram, TikTok, anybody can open an account. Anybody can call themselves an expert. Do they have real expertise? I doubt it. But here's the ultimate marker. Do they post more information, like more, do they have more posts of them showing client success stories, or do they have more shirtless selfies? Okay. If they have client success stories, well, that shows expertise. If they have shirtless selfies, that shows vanity. Um, so the interesting thing is that the people who are most wrong are also most confident about what they're doing and is just wrong. And the fact is, they might actually look good, but they're not showing any client success stories. They've figured out what works for them. They don't know what works for anybody else. Furthermore, they say, I'm a trainer or whatever, the nutritionist and so on. They might not be certified. Trainer is not a regulated term. Anybody could be a personal trainer. A random person off the street can decide today, I'm a personal trainer, and they could be a personal trainer. And furthermore, they're very good at amassing followers. So you think, A, they say they're a trainer, B, they look good, C, they have a lot of followers. Why wouldn't they be correct? Because there's nobody monitoring them to say that that's actually incorrect. So because of that, yes, there is way more information than misinformation than good information on social media in general. There are a few really, really good personalities on social media, and if you want, I can go over some of them. But by and large, like 90+% is really, really bad information. What are some of the risks of that? Injuries, stagnation, regression, frustration, loss of motivation. One of the biggest issues with people is they often tell me, I exercise, but I don't know if I'm getting results. That's really frustrating, and that demotivates you. And so lots of bad information can result in lots of bad consequences.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice. And, maybe for the listeners out there, if you're thinking about starting a program or getting hooked up with a personal trainer, maybe, do some research and some background, get somebody like Igor, who's got the educational background and the experience in the years served, training and doing these types of things. And don't just maybe buy into, whatever you see on TikTok or social media, something like that. I think that
Yeah,
that's excellent.
thank you.
Why the book on diabetes?
Um, Diabetes is a very, very common condition. My team and I, we have a really good track record with diabetes. And so my pattern to writing a book is my pattern of when I decide to write a book is basically always the same. First, I have a client with a condition that I don't know how to work with that condition, or I know vaguely, but I don't know specifics. But again, I want to get the best possible results, not just good results, but incredible results. I want my clients off of medications. I want their doctor to essentially say, you're now in the non-diabetic range. Those are the things that I want. And those are kind of the outcomes that I'm looking for. But again, I have a client and I don't know how to do that. So either I find that information through courses, certifications, etc. Or if no courses or certifications are available, then I will go directly to the medical literature and read the studies. My sources of information are not YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. My sources of information are medical journals that are peer reviewed by obviously people who are in the know. So those are my sources of information. I start applying that with one client, and then I see, is this client getting results or not? If they are, great. I'll repeat this with more clients who have that same goal. For example, diabetes reversal. Does that client get also good results? Once I have a few, 3, 4, 5, 6 success stories under my belt, I start to teach that system to the trainers, my staff who work for me, and then they start using it with their clients who have diabetes. Once my team members start getting good results with their diabetic clients, and we have a few dozen success stories under our belt, that's when I see, okay, so this is not a one isolated incident. We have a repeatable system to improve diabetes or high blood pressure or osteoporosis, etc. That's when I decide, okay, this is time to write a book. Yes, there is the there is the theory side of things, but then we actually also have the practical expertise of having had like dozens of success stories of reversing diabetes or high blood pressure or osteoporosis, etc. So that's kind of my process of when I decide to write a book.
That's awesome. And I'm definitely going to pick up your book. I'm diabetic and I'm like this close multiple times of, I feel like reversing it. I'm so borderline and I just I can't get there. So maybe perhaps, your book can flip the script for me and kind of turn things around and I can get off medication.
Yeah, it's a very simple thing. And like I talk about my diabetes book, I talk about 4 different ways to reverse it, but you don't need all 4. If you just take one of those 4, that if you're already close to the border, that might be all you need.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And with that do you have any like maybe success stories you could maybe share off the top of your head of, people that, have read your book or worked with you in this process?
Yeah, plenty. In the diabetes realm specifically, or any condition.
Any condition, anything that you can think of, or diabetes, either any of them.
Sure, I'll give you one diabetic example, one osteoporosis example. On the diabetic side of things, and I actually put her case study in the book. Her name is Mandy. Mandy, when she started working with us, she was either 61 or 63, and she was a type diabetic for about 16 years before she started working with one of my team members. And it ran in her family. In other words, her parents had it, her brother had it, and so on. And she's tried different things. She's tried medications, metformin namely, and that worked well for the first 5 years. But eventually, it started to kind of peter out. It started to lose its effectiveness. The doctor raised the dose, and it came under control. And then they raised the dose again, and it came under control. Eventually, they reached the maximal dose, and it wouldn't come down. So metformin was worked for 5 years, but then stopped working. What about the next 11 years? She's tried other medications, and same thing. They either didn't work at all or didn't work as well as metformin did the first 5 years. She's tried supplements, she's tried diets. Nothing really worked long term. Nothing really beyond 2-3 months. Once we started looking at what's not working, to us the most glaring thing is strength training. She's tried diets, and part of it is just the ability to stick to them. She's tried medications, but we're personal trainers. We're not pharmacists or doctors, so we can't comment on that. But what she hasn't really tried in an earnest attempt is strength training. And not just strength training for toning, not just strength training for weight loss, strength training for diabetes reduction, diabetes reversal. It's one way to exercise for toning versus strength versus diabetes reversal. So we had her on the diabetes reversal protocol, and she responded really, really well. In her first week of strength training, her fasting glucose dropped. I'm sorry, I'm going to give you some metric units. So her fasting glucose dropped to in the 3.5 to 4.0 range, which is almost hypoglycemic. That's very, very low. I'm not sure what that is in milligrams per deciliter, but in the hypoglycemic range. She, by herself, reduced her dosage of some of the medications. We never told her to do that. It's illegal for us to do that, but she was able to reduce her own dosage of some of the medications, which was incredible. She went back to her doctor and she
That's
said,
after 1 week.
after 1 week,
Wow.
exactly.
Wow.
After 1 week. Um, she went back to her doctor and explained she's not exercising, her blood sugar is lower. And he says, yep, you did the right thing. You were supposed to reduce the medication, but let me take you off of it completely. So she was able to get rid of a couple of medications. That was 6 years ago, and she's still in the same place today. She is no longer in the diabetic range. So this is holding long term. So that's Mandy's case study. Another case study in osteoporosis is one of our clients, Laura. Um, Laura is a current client. She's 68 years old, lives in Los Angeles. Her case study is also in the osteoporosis book, but she's very, very petite. 5'1", 92 pounds. Or she started off at 89 pounds. She's 92, 93 pounds right now. Now, you're at 5'1", you're not supposed to be 150 pounds anyways, but you're definitely not supposed to be 89 pounds either. You're supposed to be, probably about in the 100 to 110 pound range. She was way, way, way underweight for her size. And she was going for walks. She was active per se, but she was never really active in a way specific to bone strength, bone density. So what we started to do that, we started to recommend certain nutritional strategies along with specific exercises for bone density improvement. Within 1 year of working with us, she got her bone density test back, and she had improvements. I'm just recalling from memory. I think it's about 7%, 8%, and 11%, depending on the sites. The wrist, the lower back, and the hip. Those kinds of increases in bone density in 1 year is just ridiculous. The most advanced medication, or not advanced, the most common medication for osteoporosis is called Fosamax. Fosamax increases it by somewhere between 3 and 8% in 1 year. We did between 7 and 11%, depending on the area in 1 year. So powerful, powerful stuff. Again, you push the right buttons, you get the right results. And you don't get this with general exercise. The exercise has to be specific to what you're trying to target, whether it's diabetes or osteoporosis. And it's a very different protocol between diabetes and osteoporosis. What works for diabetes won't really work that well for osteoporosis. What works well for osteoporosis won't really work that well for diabetes. So there needs to be specificity in exercise prescription.
That's fascinating. And it's life-changing to these people, it sounds like. And so in your books, you can get the specific exercises that are needed to focus on the target, right?
Yeah, I leave no stone unturned. It's meant to be an actual manual that you can take and go to the gym with and use it. And by the way, the exercise is only one third or 1/4 of what we're talking about. There's also chapters on nutrition and supplements and sleep when it comes to diabetes.
I love that. And even being somebody who, used to work out, like I said, I did it for about 3 years pretty regularly. Um, I didn't know that there was maybe specific exercises that would target. You just think, exercise, just exercise, and it's good for you. But
Yeah,
that's fascinating. Um, can you maybe touch on? Oh, let's talk about your new book. Tell
sure.
tell the listeners about your new book.
The new book is called Osteoporosis Reversal Secrets, and it's like all of my books, it's 3 things for osteoporosis: exercise, nutrition, supplementation.
Awesome. And then, kind of what kind of research went into it? How long did it take you to write this?
Well, I'm the more books I write, the faster they get. This one took me about 2 weeks to write. The research is very, very thorough because the research isn't done for this book. The research is done for my clients who have been seeing 4 years before that. So when I find an interesting study, not thinking about a book, I just jot it down into either an Excel or a Word document. Eventually, after I have enough studies and I have enough success stories between myself and my team, the research has already been done. Not specifically for the book, but it's just convenient that it's already there. So the research is ongoing. I think there is somewhere between 95 or 100 references in there. So if somebody actually wants to go and check out the research, they're welcome to do that. But yeah, to write the book doesn't take me very long, about 2 weeks, which is for me on the slow side, actually. But the research was done for years and years.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Can you maybe touch on the importance of diet when it comes to kind of going hand in hand with exercise?
Yeah, specifically for osteoporosis or in general?
Just in general, or if you want to touch on in general and then touch on osteoporosis.
Sure. In general, I mean, it's a bit of a complex relationship because they'll often say that if your goal is fat loss, then nutrition is about 80% of the picture. That's a nice soundbite, but it's not always correct. Now, if you're not exercising at all, nutrition is 100%. If you're going to exercise 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, then it might only be 50 or 60%. So it really depends on where you are. But that's for weight loss. That's not for weight maintenance. In weight maintenance, once you've already lost the weight, exercise starts to play a 50% role. So it's 50% nutrition, 50% exercise. And this is just when we're talking body composition. If we're talking overall health, I would actually put exercise a little bit above nutrition. There are many, many, many different ways to eat right. There's not a single one right way to eat. There is, well, 7.9 billion correct ways to eat. But in terms of exercise, you just have to have your boxes checked. Do some kind of physical activity 3 or more times per week. Ideally, a combination of strength training and cardio, and same thing with nutrition. The bare basics are extremely simple, no matter what the gurus say. For a vast majority of healthy people, the only two things that really matter are total calories and total protein. That's it. Everything else is negligible. Whether somebody eats two large meals a day or 5 small meals a day, doesn't matter for body composition. Whether somebody eats after 7 or they don't eat after 7, doesn't matter. The ratio of carbs to fats doesn't matter. The only two things that matter are total calories and total protein. Again, this is just when it comes to body composition. Now, if somebody has other goals outside of body composition, like diabetes reversal, fiber becomes important. If somebody has other goals, like, for example, high blood pressure reversal, then there's other things that become important. They won't affect your body composition, but they will affect your blood pressure. So nutrition does play a role. How much of a role depends on who are you? Are you healthy? Are you unhealthy? What are you trying to do? How much do you already exercise? So it's a bit of a complex relationship. Again, it's a soundbite that 80% of your results will come from nutrition. True when it comes to fat loss, not true when it comes to a lot of other things.
That's fascinating. And it makes total sense. As far as let me ask you, like, maybe a personal question with like maintaining blood sugars and things like that. Like intermittent fasting and things like that. Does that seem to be successful for people, or what's your take on that?
Sure. In the world of nutrition, there's a lot of sensationalism around a lot of different topics. And I would kind of put intermittent fasting in that category. Is it bad for you? No. Is it good for you? No better than eating the right amount of calories all the time. In other words, when I was writing my book for diabetes, one of the topics that was covered is intermittent fasting good? Or put a better way, is it superior to just having the right number of calories? And the answer is no. Eating the right number of calories can, in a lot of diabetics, normalize their blood sugar. Eating the right number of calories in a restricted time window can also normalize by the same extent. You would think that if intermittent fasting is superior to just having the right number of calories, then it would lower blood sugar more than just eating the right number of calories, but it doesn't. So is there anything special about it? Not really. Is it good? It's not good, it's not bad, it's neutral. It's a way to eat, it's not the only way. If it's a preferred way, go for it. If it's not preferred, fine, there's other ways to do it. Basically, if it fits your schedule logistically, great, it's a good way. If it doesn't fit your schedule logistically, that's okay. Eat breakfast, eat lunch, eat dinner, and if you want, snack in between. If you don't snack in between. But when it comes to how earlier I said, when it comes to body composition, the only two things that matter are total calories, total protein. Well, there are two other things that matter when it comes to diabetes: total calories and fiber. Protein doesn't matter as much. It matters in an indirect way, but total calories and total fiber are the king and queen. Everything else is just details. Glycemic index, not that important. The carb to fat ratio, way overblown. But the king and queen are total calories, total fiber.
It's interesting because what you're telling me is kind of opposite of what I've been doing. Because I really do watch the carbs, and I'm not so sure I'm getting as much fiber as I probably should.
Yeah, the issue with all the focus on carbs is that they don't distinguish between high fiber carbs and low fiber carbs. You can get 100 grams of carbs from spaghetti, or you can get 100 grams of carbs from beans. The effect on the body will be very, very different. And so it's really not, so yeah, do carbs matter? Yes, they matter. Do they matter as much as fiber? Not nearly as much as fiber. And how do we know this? Because a bunch of studies in my book do a head-to-head comparison of high carb but high fiber diets versus lower carb but lower fiber diets. And high carb diets, so how high is high? 65% of calories. That's pretty high. If those diets are high in fiber, they actually reduce blood sugar way better than high carb diets that are low in fiber, and on par with low carb diets that are low in fiber. Now, of course, the ideal is a low carb diet that is high in fiber. But how much does the carbohydrate content matter? A whole lot less than the fiber content.
Fascinating, man. Learning some good stuff. When someone comes to Fitness Solution Plus and they truly dedicate themselves, man, they come to you and they're, they got their head in it. They want to do this. I mean, I think you maybe have answered this question earlier, but how often is it till they start seeing some real results with what you guys do?
I guess it depends on what kinds of results we're talking about. Different goals have different timelines. For example, improving energy levels, that happens pretty quickly, like 1 or 2 days. Improving strength, that happens very quickly, 1 or 2 days. Improving endurance, that happens very quickly, 1 or 2 days. Other goals, things like improving bone density, that takes way longer. That's like a year. For the simple reason that bone density tests are not done any more frequently than once a year. So we have something that happens as fast as 1 or 2 days, like strength and endurance, to super slow, something like bone density. So it really depends on the goal.
Yeah, that's good. Something for me personally, when I was training, was the mindset, the mental state, just not letting things distract me or pull me away from from what I wanted to accomplish. Can you maybe, and I don't know how important it is to everybody or if it is that important, that's why I'm asking, but can you maybe touch on the importance of mindset when it comes to once you have these goals and you establish a new exercise program, how important is it to keep your mindset and that focus and that drive?
Um, to some extent, it's important, but I like to have a sure thing. Um, you want to take essentially motivation out of the picture. You want to take drive out of the picture, because you're not going to be motivated every day. You're not going to be driven every day. I mean, how many people wake up and they're highly motivated to brush their teeth? Not a lot of people. It's not that much fun. It's pretty mundane. But how many people brush their teeth at least once a day, maybe twice? Almost everyone. Same thing with exercise. You don't want to get to a place where you need to be motivated to exercise. You want to be in a place where it's more like punch the clock. Either you
Routine.
yeah. So in other words, do the workout. Whether you're motivated to do the workout or not, it doesn't matter. Just do the workout. If you're not feeling that great, okay, change the workout, but don't skip the workout. The motivation to have it as part of your day is pretty important. The motivation to actually, the daily motivation to exercise isn't like, I want to get my clients to a point where they don't have to be motivated to exercise.
Yeah, that's I think that's really good. I always found it on the harder days, the days that you kind of struggle to go into the gym and to do it. When you actually do it though, you go and you apply yourself. I just felt so much better after,
Absolutely.
like then on a day when I was highly motivated and went in there. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many of my clients have come in on the day and they're like, "Yeah, I don't really feel like being here." And then by the end of the workout, they were happy they came. And the toughest part might be either just coming or maybe the first 5 minutes. If they're really dragging their feet, I tell them, you know what? If after the warm up you don't feel like exercising, cool, you can go home. But 90+% of the time, they're like, okay, I'm already here. I might as well just stick it out. And by the end, they're actually doing pretty well.
That's great, man. So maybe we could touch on, just real quick, and then I can let you off the hook here. What is in the works for you? What are your future plans? What kind of goals and things do you have? I mean, is there any new books in the works or exercise programs? What do you got going on, man?
Yeah, there's always books in the works. So now that I finished my osteoporosis book, there is one more book to complete what I call my chronic condition series. So I've done high blood pressure, I've done diabetes and osteoporosis. The next book, I'm not sure when, I haven't started working on it yet, is osteoarthritis. So joint pain. So that's the next one I'm going to work on. There are at least three more that I want to write after that, which is PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, menopause, hot topic, and the mother of them all, fat loss. Those are the ones that at least that's probably like my next 2 to 3 years.
That's fascinating. And then, where can people check you out, check your workout, pick up your books, those kinds of things?
All of my books are available on Amazon. So if you just type in my name, you'll find me on Amazon. If anybody wants a free PDF version of my book, Stop Exercising, the way you're doing it now, they can just go to www.stopexercisingbook.com.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And I look forward to some of your future work. And I just, thanks again for taking the time to do this today. And, just keep doing what you're doing, man. The world needs people like you. I I I definitely highly respect you, because I think you come at it from not only an experience standpoint, but a very educated and, focused standpoint. You kind of do things scientifically, looking at, peer reviewed studies and stuff like that. I think that's very important, and it makes you very credible. Let's put it that way. Thank you.
My pleasure. It's been a lot of fun being here. These are some of my favorite topics to talk about. So thanks again for having me here.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
You too.